Hey everyone.
Oh, my contact. Okay, go ahead.
Hey everyone, welcome to DSG, and I'm Luke.
And I'm Joel. And today we take a look at Expedite. Expedite.
Expedite is a quick goods delivery game.
Yeah, and it's been compared a lot to Ticket to Ride, which I don't get why they think it's like a Beatles song. I don't know what they think about that. Yeah, I don't know. We're going to throw on a record and listen to Ticket to Ride, and then we'll probably come back and tell you what we think about this game after we see some gameplay too. Okay, so here's the board. The board you get is nice quality on a matte finish. The map isn't the most beautiful map you'll ever see, but it's definitely adequate for playing the game. It looks like a map that you'd find on a wall in a classroom with some numbers and shapes and routes drawn on it. It looks like maybe like a trade winds map or something that you'd find. But at any rate, you get that. You also get 4 sets of, you get 2 of these little airplanes, and then you get some poker chips. You get 4 sets of those in white, red, yellow, and blue. And I'm going to show you how to play this game a little bit with 3 of the colors. So we put one of the airplanes down here in the start track. Now the whole point of this game is we are basically running like a airlines freighting company. And what we're doing is we're orchestrating deliveries of goods for points. Now whoever gets 100 points first wins the game. So how do we do this? Well, you earn points by completing deliveries, and you get deliveries from this deck here. You also get this World Trade deck that comes with the game, and you get a second deck called Expedite. Now, the World Trade deck we'll take a look at first. Here's the cards that you get in the World Trade deck. Now, you're going to start off with 3 of these World Trade cards, and they basically have a couple parts to them. Here, let's take a closer look. Now, if you look here at the top, there's a points value. That points value is the amount of points that are going to be given out total when that route is completed. Now, this is where this game gets a little tricky. Sometimes you do share those points. For the purpose of our looking here, we're gonna work with this New York to Santiago card. So that's worth 13 points total. And now some of those points might go to other people depending on if you have to use their resources to complete that route or not. So that's how you get the points. We want to get to 100 points to win. Now, how do we build these hubs? These hubs are what we use to basically travel with, and we connect all the cities with these hubs. Now, how do we get them? Well, I've shown here on the board some things laid out already. Well, you do that through playing the game through one of 4 actions that you get to pick. So, I have the yellow player, the red player, and the blue player here. And let's just kind of get ready like we're going to play a game here. Well, the way how you figure out the start player is kind of unique. You deal cards to people face up until someone gets a blue. So, yellow got a wild card, this rainbow cool wild card. And a red card goes to red goes to blue, wild goes to yellow. Oh, red got a blue. So red would get to go first. Now red has one of 4 choices in the first turn. Now before we get to that first turn though, we have to take care of a little bit of housekeeping first. We have to pick our central location. So Delta Airlines is based out of Atlanta, United is out of Chicago. Well, Red Airlines are going to be based out of Moscow because that just seems appropriate. And blue is going to be based out of Caracas. And finally, yellow is going to be based out of, I don't know, let's go with Sydney. Now, you're going to want to pick a start city that has a lot of connections to it. So Moscow makes sense. London would have made sense. New York would have made sense. And now, I know you're seeing this board here. You've seen some of these poker chips on here already. I'm setting this up like we've been playing for a little while here. So these chips go on, and that represents you taking control of that portion or that city's airport. So how do we do that? Well, on your turn you have 4 options. The first option is this Expedite deck is going to be put out, and there's going to be 2 face down or face up cards on it, and the rest of the stack is going to be face down. And on your turn you can either take these 2 face up cards, or you can take 3 of the face down cards into your hand. That's one of the 4 options you have. So you're gonna have some of these World Trade cards in your hand. Also, from the beginning of the game, you start off with 3. A second thing that you can do is you can trade in one of your World Trade cards. So let's say I had 3 World Trade cards that just didn't make sense for me to have. They were, I'm blue and I'm in Central and North America, and I've got a couple routes that are like Sydney to, I don't know, to Kabul or something like that. Well, it doesn't make any sense for me to get in that part of the country, in that part of the world, because I have no hubs. So I'm going to go ahead and trade this card in and get a new World Trade card. So that's another possibility. The third possibility is you can use the cards, the Expedite cards that you have acquired in your hands, to make matching sets to put hubs on the board. That's where these numbers come in. So Rome here has a 1 in it, a yellow 1. Well, I need 1 yellow card to complete that route. Well, here's a yellow card. I put it in the discard pile, and I can put one of my chips there. Let's say I was red. And let's see here. I don't know. Manila here has a 2 green. Well, I have a green card and a wild card here. So let's say I was the blue player. Well, I'd put a blue in there and get rid of these 2 cards. So that's how you buy the hubs. Now, there's 2 other things that you need to know about these Expedite cards. These rainbow cards are just like locomotives and Ticket to Ride. They're wild cards. You can do any color with those. So those are pretty cool and pretty powerful. And there's quite a few of them in the deck. But then the other colors are just what you think: green, yellow, red, white, and blue. So then you have to basically get books of cards, play them down in the number there are there to get them. So to get Mumbai, we'd have to get 3 blue cards here, as it shows. That's another choice that you have, to put down a hub. The final choice you have is to score a route. Now, this is where things get a little tricky here. I talked about splitting points earlier. Basically, for me to score this route, I have to have the beginning city and then be able to get into Santiago, too. So have the control of the cities, but then also be able to make a continuous route down there. So I'm going to look at New York here, down to Santiago. Well, in New York, I can go into either Iceland here, or I can go over into London, or I can go to Miami, or Denver, or Winnipeg. But I don't have a connection there. So I'm going to have to get 2 yellow cards yet, if I'm blue, and put them there in Miami. But let's say that let's say red got to Miami before me. Well, am I out of luck? Not exactly. I can go ahead and take the hit on my points and score this route still. So let's see if this is continuous now. I believe it is. New York to Miami, good, because there's a hub in both places. Then if there's a connection to Mexico City, hub in both places, I'm good there. Mexico City to Lima, I can do that as well. And then Santiago to Lima is all good as well. So I can go ahead and score this route because there's a hub in every city that I need a connection in. However, the red one here is not my hub. So what happens there is you can see this 3 on this route. What's going to happen is this 13 points that I kind of showed you earlier is going to get split between the 2 of us. So that 3 is a deduction I'm going to have to make and give to red. So 3 is going to score 3 points on that, or red's going to score 3 points on that. And then I'm the blue player. I'm going to score 10. So the 3 and 10 makes 13. We split the points. Now, there's one other kind of cool thing that we can do with this game. And this is where it gets a little different. I know this has gotten a lot of comparisons to Ticket to Ride, and I can see where that happens with the collecting cards of a different color to make routes. But I think that's kind of where the similarities kind of fall off, because the point sharing isn't a Ticket to Ride thing. That's more of an Age of Steam thing. And this is the thing that I've never seen. I mean, I've not played every board game, but you can also take control over a hub by basically having a little battle there almost. So Miami cost him 2 yellow cards to get into, red to get in there. Now let's say I'm blue here and I want to take over that hub because I have other routes I want to score there. It's just an important hub for me to get. So I can pay however many chips will be there times the original cost to get that. So if I put my chip there, there's already 1 chip there. I put my chip there, that's a second chip. So there will be 2 chips there times the original cost 2. So I can pay 4 yellow cards, or a combination of yellow cards and wild cards, to take control of that. Now that I have control of that, when I score this route, I wouldn't have to share points. People would have to pay me to go in and out of Miami, and I get control of that. So that's pretty cool. Now, the other thing too is let's just say red says, man, Miami's pretty important to me too. So 2, there's already two chips there. The initial cost of 2, a third chip there. So we're looking at 3 chips times 2. He's going to have to pay 6 yellow cards to take that over. And then we're going to go up to 8 and 10 and so on and so forth. with the ones, they go 1, 2, 3, 4 because 1 times 2, 2. 1 times 3, 3. The threes get really expensive really quick. I mean, you can do the basic math there, but 3, 6, 9, 12, 15. I don't think I'm going to pay 15 cards for anything. So they get pretty expensive to take over after a while, and that kind of adds to some strategy to it. Like, do you want to be the first person to take Mumbai at 3, or do you want to be the second person to take it at 6 and hope that no one's going to pay 9 for it? So you kind of have to like predict value of different hubs, or just kind of hope that you luck into getting it cheap and keeping it. There's one other thing I want to mention too before we wrap this up, and that's this card here. This is the coolest looking card in the deck for sure. It's got a bunch of world landmarks on it, and it's got this cool like sunburst in the back. This card is like the super card. It means you can take over control of any hub, and when I say any hub, I mean any hub except for the initial starting hubs that have planes on them. But any hub that was bought with a chip, you can take control over with that one card. So I don't care if there's like 10 chips here on 2. It normally would cost you 22 cards to get it. You get it for 1 card. So that's why that card kind of keeps things unpredictable. A little bit of variety to the game because you can't 100% predict that you're not going to get your hub taken over. So it's a very powerful card, but I think it's almost necessary to keep people honest in this game. So there's always that what if aspect to the game. So that's basically it. So what did Luke and I think about it? Well, let's find out now. So yeah, I mean, like Ticket to Red's not even on this album. And we play it for them to hear, but we can't afford the royalties. Anyway, I'm going to put this down. So anyway, we take a look at games in 4 chunks. We look at the theme and the art. We look at the fun. We look at the family rating, and then we also take a look at the overall on it. So, I don't know. What do you think, Luke? Theme and art to start with.
For theme and art, I'm going to have to give it a pretty low 6, just because the art itself is basic. The planes are just kind of pieces of plastic that are all one color, and there's just no detail.
So you get a 6 on the art. There's no detail. Everything's pretty basic. Pretty generic almost.
Yeah.
Okay. But like 6 is still decent. Like, so it must have looked good for generic type stuff, right?
Right.
And the theme's kind of cool, right?
Right.
Yeah. So that's why it gets a 6. Cool,
Right.
Cool theme. Kind of generic parts, kind of whatever, but good enough, right? What about fun?
For fun, I'm going to have to give it an 8.
An 8?
Which is pretty high for me.
That is very high. So you had a lot of fun playing this game?
Yeah, probably in my top 10.
What did you like about it?
I liked that it was easy to catch on to, and it wasn't too long or too fast.
Yeah. It was pretty quick to get figured out, and then we played the game probably in less than a half an hour, or about a half an hour, right? So
Right.
It wasn't boring. It didn't get boring ever. Okay, what about a family rating?
A family rating, I'm going to have to give it probably an 8 also, because it's a 4-player game, which is a very good family number, but compared to other games, because all games have to be a little competitive if it's not a co-op.
Sure.
And it's just kind of good for families because it's not really that violent or, yeah.
I was thinking about something else. What number did you give it
What?
for a family rating?
An 8?
An 8. So it got a really high family rating, too.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now what I was thinking about is when I've watched these videos, I tend to do my thoughts next, and when I do my thoughts, Luke just sits there and like half the time he yawns, and the other half of the time like he like turns around and looks at the games behind us. Not really. I mean, like, he does a good job. But if you feel like you need to say something, like, go ahead and talk during this part too, okay? You don't have to just sit there totally quiet. Theme and art, Luke gave it a 6. I'm going to give it a 6 also. I mean, like, it's pretty basic. You can tell that they didn't have custom molded parts made for this game. They use poker chips for the placeholders. They use pretty generic looking planes for the planes. But that said, a 6 is still good. A 3 would be terrible. I think a 6 is just totally fine because the theme's cool. Like the idea that you have to fly through different airports and pay like surcharges, and it kind of makes you feel like you are in like the early days of like air delivery. So like the planes can't fly that far; they've got to stop at every hub, and you've got to pay a little bit at each airport to get gas or whatever. So it cuts back on your costs or on your profits. So I mean, the theme really works, and the components. They're super basic, but they work. I mean, they definitely work. Someone complained about poker chips, that they didn't like having poker chips in the game. I like the poker chips because they actually stack pretty well.
So we have just about the same thoughts for art and theme.
Yeah, pretty much. It's a cool theme though. The fun, I'm gonna say this fun factor is like 7.5, maybe 8. It's a little basic for me, but I mean, I'm a pretty big gamer, and I mean, like, Luke's not as into games as I am, so he had a good time with it. It doesn't require a ton of deep thought, but it's deeper in thought than, I mean, obviously we were joking earlier when we talked about Ticket to Ride. See, this isn't a green screen, this is a real... Anyway, so, Ticket to Ride back there over my shoulder, I actually have 2 versions of it. We have Europe and we have the regular game, because it's a good game and it's a big hit with us. So if they compare this game to Ticket to Ride, there's definitely worse things that could be said. I mean, Ticket to Ride's one of those games that Tom Vassell likes and my wife likes. So, I mean, it goes all the way from the whole spectrum of gamers. My wife's not even a gamer, and she'll play Ticket to Ride. So, I mean, this game, it is similar to Ticket to Ride in some regards, but not totally. So, anyway, let me get to my family rating. My family rating on this is like an 8, 8.5 maybe even, because this game is perfect for a family, because little kids, not little kids, but maybe 8-year-olds can figure it out. But it's also got enough advanced thinking to it and theory to it that more like the gamer type people in your family would be like, oh, okay, there's some gamesmanship here where I can be uncooperative with people or make things difficult. So that said, 8.5, man, I think this is a great game for families. It's perfect almost. And what it's really great at is it is similar to Ticket to Ride, but it adds something to it. The whole idea that you can stack your hubs and the fact that
It's almost like Ticket to Ride Europe.
yeah, but like there's even more competition, like to buy the hubs out from each other, and then you share points too, which isn't a Ticket to Ride thing at all. So I mean, like it adds another layer to Ticket to Ride that just isn't there on the regular game, and I think this game would be perfect. And what I'm gonna say this game is perfect for is this: if you've got some people in your family who like Ticket to Ride, and they really like Ticket to Ride, but they won't get into much heavier than that, this is a good game for you to pick up to be that next game. Like, this game is just 10% more complex than Ticket to Ride.
And it's probably a good, like, baby step into more competitive games.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I personally struggle with this because we started gaming with Catan, which, I mean, now is... I look back at Catan and think, man, that is dry. I can't believe we ever played that. But then the next game we got, almost immediately after that, was Ticket to Ride, and that was a big hit. And we took it to people's houses that weren't gamers, and they played. And my wife still thinks that's a good game and likes to play it. So if we have to play a game, or she's going to play a game with us, there's a few games that she really enjoys. She loves Racco, so she likes 10 Days in Africa. And
that might be a game reviewed in Kid Games, because Kid Games kind of has party games and stuff.
So Racco's a party game?
Kind of.
Kind of more lighter. Yeah, anyway, she likes Racco a lot, and she does like 10 Days in Africa. So, like, that's one that she likes, but she also likes Ticket to Ride a lot. So, I mean, the ones that we get on the shelf are Ticket to Ride and 10 Days in Africa. Well, this is going to be another one that we can put on.
10 Days in America? Cause that's
in America. That's the one we have. Yeah, you're right. So, at any rate, family factor, it gets a really high score because it's a good logical step to go to after Ticket to Ride. And I've tried a lot of other things as a next step. I tried Power Grid. I tried a lot of different things as like the next step. And if you ask most people in the games industry or friendly local game shops, like, hey, my wife liked Ticket to Ride, what's the next step? They don't have a great next step for you. And I'm going to tell you, this is the next great step towards doing something more complex with a spouse or with a family. Because it's so similar to Ticket to Ride in some ways, but then it's different and more complex and better in other ways. So, I mean, I get people don't think they reinvented the wheel with this game, but they didn't. They took something really great and they modified it a little bit, and it's really good. So, anyway, let's get to our overall ratings.
For overall, I'll have to give it maybe a 7.5.
7.5?
Yeah, because I had a lot of fun and it's good for families, but the art really takes some points down.
Yeah, I'm gonna go higher than 7.5 because here's what's up with this game. This game is totally independently published. This isn't a Rio Grande or a Days of Wonder game. This is some guys who I did a little research on the game, and this might change your score a little bit too. These guys lived in a neighborhood together. They'd play games, they'd play Risk, they'd play different games like that in the neighborhood, and they wanted to develop something of their own. So they did a Kickstarter. Now, this game to me is what Kickstarter was meant for. This game was like 3 dudes who said, "Hey, we need, $12,000 to make a few copies of this game to get us started." And they got that. They got a little over their goal, and they created a game. And what they created was very pragmatic and practical, and it was just this basic game, but everything functions well, and it's not going to win any art awards, but like, who cares? It plays perfectly fine with the components that are there. And the reason why I think I'm pretty fond of this game is because this is something I'd like to do myself someday. I'd like to say, hey, I've got this idea. I'm going to go kickstart it, make the boards, sell the game. And so maybe I'll do it under their umbrella or something even. I don't know, because they've got their own little games company going. They're going to be putting other stuff out. But they're kind of doing it. I mean, they're kind of living the dream a little bit. So I think almost every gamer has this thing inside of them that says, I'd love to put a game out and have people buy it and review it. And they did it. I mean, they absolutely did it. So for me, I'm going to give it an 8.5 because it's got a soft spot in my heart for the fact that my wife would play this game and enjoy it because of the crossover with Ticket to Ride, but at the same time it's not Ticket to Ride. It's not the same game. There's other things that are different about it. And the other thing that the final note is that it's cool that they're doing it. I mean, it's cool that they put a game out. It's cool that they made something, and it's very cool. So that's it. My final thought on that. So, anything else you want to say?
Not really.
No? So, do you think you're going to be sad? Do you think it's today? Yeah?
What?
The girl that was driving you mad is going away? Yeah?
What? I don't give a...
Well, she's got a Ticket to Ride.
Oh.
Are you going to make a condescending laughing sound because you're a preteen? Look at him.
Dun, dun,
Being...
dun! Don't worry, I'm not blowing snot rockets this episode.
Thank you. Anyway, thanks for watching, and we'll talk to you later, I guess, or do some more reviews later. Oh, one last thing. Nah, it's too late. Well, we had a geek list up, and if you would have been following us on Facebook or gone to our website, you would have known about this, but we have 10 games listed on a geek list, and so we'll be following those games in popularity of choice for our next 10 reviews. So if you're not following us yet on Facebook or going to our website, dadsonandgame.com, or Facebook/dadsonandgame, do so, because you get little insights like that. As always, though, leave us a message either here on the Geek, on our Facebook wall, or at dsg.fellas@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you guys. All right, well, that's enough talking. See ya, and thanks for watching. It's a great game. We're going to highly suggest it. Are you leaving now? You want to hear some Beatles music, don't you?
Maybe.
You have a Beatles shirt on for the